Morning everyone, welcome to All Four Queens. I hope you're doing well this Thursday morning, and I think I've uploaded some of the other ones on there as well, so thank you for everybody watching it. I'm assuming that it's just the people that have cloned my channel, but thank you for watching it anyway. I think that's probably just the easiest thing to say these days. I've got so much that comes through, and I was trying to put it all into order as you do, and I've gone through, and I know a lot of us are the same, but look at that, I mean, books and books and books of stuff, because you're just constantly, putting stuff down. There's lots of obviously stuff that I know that is coming through now in terms of, all the little things that people thought were secrets, but were never really secrets, but we just don't talk about it until the timing is right. And I think, why do I say that? I know because of the journey that I've been on, and I'm not just saying this particular part of it, but the past life and also my childhood. When people are desperate to sort of throw a narrative around you so that they can hide what they think is a secret because they've done so many nefarious things, and as time goes on, what do they say? You only have to remember a lie. You never have to remember the truth. The truth is the truth, isn't it? You don't have to build another lie on top of another lie on top of another lie on top of another lie, because the truth is what it is. It's only when you start one lie do then the ricochets into multiple lies. That's just how it is, isn't it? So I don't really. I question, will we ever understand the mind of the liar? Maybe not, and maybe in some cases they don't realise that it's going to be as big a lie as it becomes, but then it just becomes unmanageable. But 2024, as we've seen around the world, the lies aren't sustainable. Now, the only thing that I will say, and I am going to say this because obviously for the collective who are out there that are understanding, our journey and what we've all been through, and the stalking and the harassment and trying to create a narrative to make us look one way and hacking into systems and all that sort of stuff. It is interesting that, when you look around at what's going on and I'm going to say it in terms, and I keep referring to Hollywood, but it's the only way I can really align it for people to understand the bigger picture of not just, when I've read Revelations and you look at what's going on around the world in terms of all the floods and things like that, it's because all the darkness that was done, including people burying things and coming to people's houses and putting dirt around people's houses, and all the spiritual wickedness that people have done, it's got to be churned up to get rid of it. So, and then when I talk about Hollywood, if you look at some of the, and I'm going to say the rap artists maybe, because that's what pops up in my feed a little bit. Not always. I mean, there are other artists as well, but that seems to be the big focus at the moment. And I don't know if that's because of the really famous one that's got himself into a bit of a pickle, but if you look around and you look at how they achieved what they achieved, and the sort of like movie that sort of sits behind it, who took who out, who stole from who did this, who did that, and then liken it to our own lives, and then I talk about destiny swapping. That's where we're at. That's the world that we're in. It's happening at that level, and it also happens at this level. And I know when it happened to me, I remember very clearly when it happened to me, and then obviously the innocent souls that got brought along the journey to keep the lie, and as they got older, they're not so innocent, are they? Because they continued in the lie, because it gave them something as well. Okay, so this particular session, I want to give people a bit of an understanding of the types of stalkers. And the reason why I'm doing that is when I started on this journey, I had so many things hitting me all at once. And I know, cults, covens, organisations, societies, you want to name it, are all involved in it, because of the big secrets that people think are secrets. And so obviously they approach in different ways, don't they? And then you get the spin-offs who just think they're the diehards who go off and do their own little thing because they're desperate to keep it going, and yet everybody else has walked away because they realise that, you know, it's a doom, you know. And also, what you've got to also remember as well is, like I said in the very early one, Satan doesn't do anything without God's approval and discussion, temptation and test, Job 1. So when people go off and become mavericks in their own little world of like a competition that only they know there's a competition, nobody else does, you know, the most mature person will go and have a conversation, but some people can't do that. Or some people can't come out of the dark to actually go and speak to somebody who is of the light because I'd blind them, and I get that. So they operate in the dark. But obviously they become their own little mavericks then. And then by doing that, they actually annoy the devil as well. So you've got the devil to answer to, you've got your ancestors to answer to, and then you've got obviously God and the spiritual realm to answer to. But most of your ancestors, like I said before, are working with me. You know, they've come and protected me because they're disgusted in the way that things have been behaved. And obviously, how do I know that? I can only say that because I am, you know, a vessel, I am a medium, I am a psychic seer, and I do have conversations. So, you know, and I'm grateful, very grateful for my gifts. I'm very grateful for the fact that, you know, there are people in the spiritual realm that are righteous, even if those in the physical are not. And those that got bribed or got drawn into it and didn't validate, that was your lesson. That was your lesson, and for your lineage to break your generational curse and not go with what someone says, but actually do a bit of work and do a bit of validation. You know, we all need to validate everything, don't we? Especially in today's world where there's so much fake news. People can spin a narrative on anything, and just because of who they are doesn't mean they're right. They could be even more of a fake person than anyone. We only have to look at politics to see that. So, you know, that's just food for thought. So let me jump into it anyway, because I got this from the Public Prosecution Services, the ppsni gov.uk in the UK. So now it says, which was interesting, it says it is not usually personal, but it takes in general are not targeting a particular person. Stalkers just have a deficiency and a need to control. Now, I would probably disagree with that in my case, because I do think that there was more than that. And I think because obviously if you look at the journey of the twin flame or the soulmate, whatever it is, I think it was more attuned to that. But also I think we all have a lesson to learn in that. And I think for me, and I will do a separate one because I said I did one before, closing out cycles is so important. So like if someone's in a relationship with somebody, you've got to close that cycle out before you can move to a new one. But also you've got to be mindful of the karma that that person has as well, and how they're going to feel when you do close the cycle out. Because for some unknown reason, and I never understand the logic in it, but say like if you meet someone, a man and a woman, or a man and a man, whatever you're into, but if you meet someone and their ex or ex has still not got over them, but they haven't closed the cycle, or they're still very close, then that person can feel aggrieved and then go and do some bizarre stuff. Now, I'm not saying that's who it is in this case. Possibly it is. But even in business, you know, I've been stalked from a colleague in business. You know, so yeah. So anyway, so stalkers' political beliefs agree or disagree. They cut across attachment, socialise, influence, a goal, pursuit. Could be a mental health issue, but obviously it needs to be diagnosed. Could be a personality issue, and you know, it's just something that they're used to. No, who's to say that they weren't stalked and that's what alert behaviour is? But obviously generational curse or karmic debt, you need to clear it, don't you? So the types. Now I'm going to put spirit in front of it because obviously that's what I believe it is. The spirit of rejected stalker, a breakdown of a close relationship, either a sexual partner, family member, close friend or any other close relationship to a stalker that they believe to be close. They can become targets of a rejected stalker. So somebody that's obviously really believes, but then it comes back to communication, doesn't it? The spirit of the resentful stalker arises when the stalker feels as though they have been mistreated or they're the victim of some form of injustice or humiliation, but it's perceived. Victims are strangers or acquaintances who are seen to have mistreated the stalker. So if you listen to that, the victims are strangers or acquaintances who are seen to have mistreated the stalker. So they don't actually know the person, they just perceive it. The intimacy-seeking stalker, the spirit of the intimacy-seeking stalker, arises out of a context of loneliness and a lack of a close, confident connection. Victims, usually strangers or acquaintances, who become the target of the stalker's desire for a relationship, male or female. Usually the stalker can have a delusional belief about the victim, such as being in a relationship with the victim, even though it does not exist and never has, or somebody knew of the victim, and they then decided that they're in that relationship with that person because of the association they have with somebody else. The incompetent spirit stalker, loneliness or lust with targets being strangers or acquaintances. Their motivation differs from the intimacy stalker seeker. Their motive is not to establish a loving relationship, but to secure a date or short-term sexual relationship. They stalk for brief periods. If they do persist, their behaviour is usually maintained by the fact that they have no understanding, empathy, compassion for the victim's distress, completely indifferent and blind. Now I suppose we could ask the question, does that lead more down the mental health? And obviously I'm not a mental health expert, but please reach out to those who are if you're seeking some support, and also legal as well. The spirit of the predatory stalker arises in the context of a deviant sexual practices and interest. The perpetrators are usually male and victims are usually female, strangers, acquaintances, in when the stalker develops a sexual interest. The stalking behaviour is usually initiated as a way of obtaining sexual gratification, i.e. voyeurism, targeting a single victim over and over, but can also be used as a way of obtaining information about the victim as a persecutor to the sexual assault, the most dangerous leading to sexual attack. And it does say here, consider the four, F-O-U-R, fixated, obsessive and unwanted and repeated. So the stalking list court can convict alternative offence or threatening and abusive behaviour. Now, the predator stalker is an interesting one, because you remember on some of my earlier ones I talk about someone who actually accessed my home, and obviously the room was really, really hot, and I'd had somebody had injected, because I'd got like a needle mark in my arm. And obviously I knew that someone had been in the house, because obviously the blinds were up in the kitchen and things like that, which was very weird. But what was strange, and what you find on this journey very quickly, is when you actually report it, nothing happens. So some of the crimes that have happened against me are very serious, and yet they weren't taken seriously. Hence why, when you're in spirituality, I really strongly do believe that faith is so important, and tapping into your ancestors, and they'll do everything in their power to try and block that. But obviously, it's about perseverance, and keep going and keep moving forward, and don't give up, because even if you're on your own and people see you on your own, you're not on your own. And people don't know who you are. People just see a person and they think that that's, and he's target. But what they don't realise is the work that you've done, past life, this life, the destiny that you're on for this life. Because when they destiny swap, all they're interested in is the riches that come with it. And that doesn't necessarily mean money. That can be anything. Anything can be an abundant. But what they don't realise is that destiny is there for a reason, because it's not about the wealth as such. It's more about why we go through what we go through, to grow us, to transform us, to then be able to do the next phase of the work. And if the twins or the soulmates come together, they've learnt the path, they've walked the path. So if you think about tarot, the first card is the Fool card, isn't it? Because the Fool goes out on his journey, and then he goes through all the other cards before he gets to the end card, which is the World, you know. And then your full cycle closes, and then you go back through again. But in between that, you know, when they say life is a journey, not a destination, in between that, from the pages to the knights to the queens to the kings, you've got lessons to learn. And those lessons are all about life, you know, and also the things that people do that are against what was destined and planned, twists and turns. But I do believe that, you know, everything happens for a reason, season, and a lifetime. And I think that 2024, and we'll see a lot more destruction around the world, you know, things falling down, the towers coming down, before we start to see the new world and the building of new. Now, in the Bible, obviously, in Revelations, and personally, I don't think you have to be religious. I just think you have to walk with common sense, and walk with the open heart, and be kind. You know, lead with kindness before you lead with anything, and you can't ever go wrong, because you're never going to catch karma for that. You're only going to catch positive karma, aren't you? You're never going to catch negative karma. So I don't really align to the hate side of things and why people operate the way they do. It doesn't work. I don't understand it. So I try to, but I don't understand it. And I understand that maybe there are things within them that they need to look at and heal, but projecting out to others and not taking responsibility and accountability, that's the bit I don't understand, because we're all responsible as children. We carry burdens that we shouldn't be carrying, because we can't control that, unfortunately. And there are people that, you know, for whatever their reasons are, you know, they abuse. And but as you get to be an adult, you can redirect and take the reins and do something about it. And you know, that's what I did. So I hope that the Stalker helps a little bit, because I know that when I started on this journey, there was a lot of stuff I didn't know, and there's a lot of things I've had to learn. And yes, there's the Bible, yes, there's the tarot, yes, there's my ancestors who I adore greatly, and you know, and in meditation, and you know, my angels and that. And you know, people say, oh, you know, angels and stuff, they do exist, and one day I'll show you my art. You know, there's just so many things that I've had to slow down and doing, and I say thank you to the enemy, whoever you are, because what you did get me to do, and everything is a blessing in life, you made me slow down a little bit and not go at full speed, because I was actually operating very much in masculine energy very early on, and I've learned to be able to balance that. So for that, I will say thank you, because you've given me the opportunity to just take a step back and just sit more in reflection, and just watch what I need to watch when I need to watch it. So I hope that helps. There are legal elements to stalking. It's not just a case of someone does it, but you know, as time goes on, digital footprint will always show itself, won't it? And for those that were supposed to help and support us, you know, you learn very quickly that they're probably part of the problem and not the solution in some cases, especially when you step into your North Node, and you step into looking at the world from a higher perspective, not just when you're stuck in what they're feeding you. When you look at it from a higher perspective, where all the corruption is, where all the greed is, and how it's been turned upside down and back to front, and the whole purpose of the new world is to turn it to have balance. It's not saying the darkness will ever go, but it's having balance, so it's not so much dark. There's light and dark. You know, Book of Genesis says, let there be light, and I believe that's where we're heading to. Let there be light, and let the children live a life where they can have childhoods, not be forced into this negative gotta have and materialism world. You know, they should be able to just enjoy their childhood. So, and then on the other part of Genesis, I just want to say, when we talk about Jesus is coming, I know for the Christians out there, you know, that's a strong belief, but for me personally, spiritually, I believe, yes, if Jesus is coming, in the interim of Jesus coming, what are you and me and all of us going to do to change who we are and the way that we see things, to improve externally the world itself? And let's not just wait for one man to come and do it, let's start doing it now. And all this negative behaviour like stalking and stuff, let's just stamp it on its head and just get rid of it. And people trying to do things in the spirit because they think it's not seen, using the dark arts to try and harm and hurt people, and then pay people to lie and bribe without giving them the full facts and then drawing them into their karma. Let's put some sort of stop on it and take control of the reins. So I hope that helps, and I'll see you on the next one. See you later. Bye.